In that match between Belgium and Sweden, a no-scoring draw, I'm afraid. Well, we've more football later, but let's now turn our attention to motorsport and to the opening event of the 1990 SO Scottish Rally Championship. Conditions were seasonal, to say the least, for the Mercury Snowman rally at the weekend. In fact, never was a sporting event more aptly named. It certainly provided the drivers and co-drivers with an early season challenge. Alan Douglas looks back over the action.
The 1990 SO Scottish Rally Championship emerged from its winter hibernation to break out into the Highlands. And once again, the opening round, the Snowman Rally, lived up to its name. And if the conditions on the roads were difficult, they were even worse on the closed-off Forestry Commission tracks, which would form the 52 miles of competitive stages. Once again, the crowds were out in force. Several thousand made their way into the forests. And the rally cars weren't the only attraction. The rally route would take the 118 crews round 6 special stages from the Inverness start.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
200.
First car away was last year's winner, garage owner Jimmy Girvin in his Toyota Celica GT4.
Open 90 right. Going up, junction 90 left. Onto long straight.
But in spite of the car's four-wheel drive, the conditions were appalling, alternating between deep snow and slush.
400. Fast right.
He just couldn't use the Celica's power to its full advantage. Traction and grip generally proved almost non-existent as he failed to negotiate this tight right-hander and instead headed straight on into the blocked-off exit road.
Okay.
On the opening Milbui stage, he could manage only 7th fastest, and by the second stage at Morangi, he was actually caught by the far less powerful Mazda of borderer Ewan Brewis. And four-wheel drive in his Sierra wasn't much help to Kenny Dorrans either. But that was nothing to the problems faced by Welshman Glyn Jones in the Audi 90 Quattro. All-wheel drive, but still caught by the traditional rear-wheel drive Ford Escort of former Scottish champion Colin McRae, having borrowed the car from his uncle. And in his 20-valve Audi 90 Quattro, Bob Locke from Douglas in the Isle of Man was caught by the flying dentist from the northeast of England, Bill Limburn, in his Toyota Celica. He wasn't the only one to suffer that indignity. Wilson Girvin was at the wheel of a four-wheel drive Ford Escort for the first time. It had transmission normally associated with agricultural tractors, high and low ratio gearbox and a differential lock, but he was still caught by Limburn. But the dentist found that failure is only a short step away from success. Near the end of the stage, he was caught out and planted the Celica firmly in a deep snow ditch. But rally crowds are an enthusiastic bunch and they gathered round to help. Meanwhile, the rally leader, George Gauld, sailed past in his Mazda 323 as just some of the large crowd put their shoulder to the task to try to get Limburn on his way again. But not before Colin Valentine in yet another Mazda, in second place, passed the stricken Celica. But as they say, hard work always pays off, and with plenty of muscle, Bill Limburn was on his way again, with a thank you wave for the helpers. So at the halfway point at the service area in Bewley, the crews had the chance to gather their thoughts and give the mechanics time to check over the cars.
Conditions are terrible. We'll have to go sort of first in, and a hell of a lot of snow, so we're not doing, we'll be in the top 10 I think, but that's all. I think there's 4 Mazdas in front of us, but no, we're not doing too well at all. Just went into a snowbank. I don't know why the window went actually, there was nothing hit it, so it must have been just a little bit of shock or something like that, and the mirror's gone, but no, nothing serious.
Conditions had been bad, and they weren't going to get much better for the southern stages either.
The top 4 cars leading this rally, and it's Mazda, 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 Mazda. That says a lot for them. They are underpowered, but when the conditions are bad and power isn't the be-all and end-all, then I think just looking at the result at the moment, four-wheel drive's good, they handle well, they change direction exceedingly well, but sometimes too well. But no, they're quite good in these conditions.
One man who knows all about extreme weather is top Scottish driver Jimmy McRae, watching the efforts of son Colin.
I think it's a bit of a lottery, really. It's always been when there's so much snow, when you get, cars away back in the 60s, lying in the top 10. It's just one of these things, that if you're running high up the field, then you're at a disadvantage.
4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Heading south, conditions were wetter, but no easier for the competitors.
Medium right, long K left. Right. Long medium right.
One of the most remarkable performances came from Dom Buckley Jr., taking his Mazda into third place. And a magnificent result for George Gauld, also in a Mazda. After years in the shadows of the sport in Scotland, he emerged as victor. Colin Valentine completed the trio of Mazdas in the top places, seen here in the Glenurquhart stage, heading for runner-up spot. Buckley was in his element. The demise of Ewan Brewis when he plunged over a banked corner after blind brow left his way clear to third place. Fourth place was the best Dalbeattie Metro Ford driver Murray Grierson could manage in the conditions. And unable to repeat his success last year, Jimmy Girvin, seen here on the Port Clare stage, was fifth. While Ian MacDonald in the elderly Toyota Corolla beat off the opposition to capture sixth place. Jimmy's brother Wilson Girvin managed to get to grips with his unusual escort during the day and eventually finished seventh. At the head of the field there were smiles all round, but the conditions were horrendous, and not just for the drivers.
It's been quite eventful. It's helped us running further down the field with the snow up in the front for the front boys. We hit a sort of trough, a metal trough in the first stage and burst a back toe link. Had to run 4 miles with that and a puncture. But apart from that, one excursion into a ditch, but nothing else drastic really.
This is what dreams are made of. Yeah, this is
Last year we we won the BTRDA Championship, the Hella Prodzolins, and this is just the icing on the cake for that, yeah.
Some negotiations continued well into the night on the interpretation of rules, but that night the honours went to the partnership of Gauld and Boyles, and a remarkable 1-2-3 for Mazda.
Back boxing now, and another bout from the St Andrews Sporting Club, Bill, in Glasgow this week. Although the Bill Topper, the world title fight between